Hello, everyone. After 20 years of silence, Tu Diep finally stands at her mother's door. Some wounds need answers before they can heal. But will the truth set her free? Let's find out together. Tu Diep stands on the street staring at the yellow house. She came all this way, got on a bus at dawn, left her husband and daughter behind, crossed half the country to get here, and now she can't make her feet move those last 20 steps. Do you want me to come with you? Mitsutlan asks. No. I need to do this alone. I'll wait here then. Take your time. Tu Diep takes a deep breath, then another. She thinks about Nai, about what she told her daughter before leaving. But if you find her, tell her about me. She thinks about James saying he's proud of her. She thinks about 20 years of wondering, and she walks to the door. Her hand shakes as she raises it to knock. Before she can, the door opens, and there she is. Her mother, older, gray hair pulled back in a bun, wearing a simple house dress, lines around her eyes that weren't there before. But unmistakably, her mother. They stare at each other. Tu Diep watches as recognition dawns on her mother's face, watches her mother's expression shift from confusion to shock, to something that might be fear. Tu Diep, her mother whispers. Hearing her name in her mother's voice after 20 years breaks something open in Tu Diep. Hi, Mama. Her mother's hand goes to her mouth. Tears spring immediately to her eyes. For a long moment, neither of them moves. Then her mother steps back, gesturing weakly. Come in, please. Come inside. Tu Diep follows her into the small house. It's simply furnished. A table, 2 chairs, a sleeping mat in the corner, a small kitchen area. Everything is clean but worn. This is where her mother has been living. This small, quiet space. Her mother hurries to make tea, her hands shaking so badly she nearly drops the cups. Sit, she says, not looking at Tu Diep. I'll make tea. Mama, you don't have to. Please, let me make tea. So Tu Diep sits and waits while her mother busies herself with the tea things. She watches her mother's movements, the way she still tilts her head when she concentrates, the way she arranges things just so. Some things don't change. Finally, her mother sets down 2 cups of tea and sits across from Tu Diep. They look at each other over the steam. I didn't know you were coming. Her mother says, Mrs. Lan didn't tell me. I asked her not to. I wasn't sure I would actually come until I was here. Her mother nods. How did you find me? James's mother. She came to Ha Tay looking. She talked to people who remembered you. James, my husband. Her mother's eyes widen slightly. You're married. For 8 years now. And children? A daughter, Nai. She's 6. Her mother's face crumples. I have a granddaughter. Yes. The silence stretches between them. Tu Diep has so many questions. They've been building inside her for 20 years. But now, sitting here, she doesn't know where to start. Her mother speaks first. I know you must have questions, and I know I owe you answers. Why? Tu Diep asks simply. Why did you leave? Her mother closes her eyes. I was scared. Scared of what? Of everything. Of being a mother. Of failing you. Of... She trails off. There was a man. Someone I thought I loved. He said he would take care of us. Take us away from the city. Give us a better life. So you left with him. Yes, I was young and stupid, and I believed him. And then what happened? Her mother's hands twist in her lap. He left. After a few months, he just left. And I was here in Ha Tay with no money, no way to get back, and so much shame. You could have come home. Could I? How could I face you after what I did, after choosing a man over my own daughter? So instead, you just disappeared. Let me think you were dead. Her mother flinches. I thought about coming back every day for the first year. I thought about it, but the longer I stayed away, the harder it became. And then I heard you were with a family, that you were being taken care of. I thought maybe you were better off without me. Tu Diep feels anger rising in her chest. That wasn't your decision to make. I know. I spent 20 years wondering. 20 years thinking you were dead. Do you know what that does to a person? I'm sorry. Her mother's voice breaks. I'm so sorry, Tu Diep. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I am sorry. Tu Diep stands up. She needs to move, needs to breathe. She walks to the window and looks out at the quiet street behind her. She can hear her mother crying softly. Part of Tu Diep wants to comfort her. Part of her wants to leave and never come back. But mostly, she just feels tired. I came here for answers. Tu Diep says, and now I have them. But they don't make me feel any better. No, I suppose they wouldn't. So Tu Diep turns back to face her mother. I have a good life now, a husband who loves me, a daughter who is smart and funny and kind. I built something good out of all that pain you left me with. Her mother nods, tears streaming down her face. I'm glad, truly, but I also have this hole inside me. This place where a mother should be. And I don't know if meeting you today fills that hole or makes it bigger. What can I do? Her mother asks desperately. Tell me what to do. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything you can do. They stand there in the small house. Two women connected by blood and separated by choices made long ago. Tu Diep picks up her bag. I need to go. Her mother stands quickly. Will you come back? Tu Diep pauses at the door. I don't know. Maybe I need time to think about everything. Can I know about my granddaughter? About Nai? Tu Diep pulls out her phone. She finds a recent photo of Nai smiling at the park. She shows it to her mother. Her mother stares at the image. Fresh tears falling. She's beautiful. She has your eyes. And yours. Tu Diep puts her phone away. I'll be in touch. I don't know when, but I will. Her mother nods. Unable to speak, Tu Diep walks out of the house and back to where Mrs. Lan is waiting. How did it go? Mrs. Lan asks gently. I don't know yet. They walk back to the bus station in silence. On the bus ride home, Tu Diep stares out the window. She found her mother, got her answers, saw where she lives and heard her apology. And now she has to figure out what to do with all of it. Here's what I learned that day. Some wounds don't heal just because you understand where they came from. Understanding why someone hurt you doesn't automatically mean you forgive them. But it's a start. Tu Diep didn't forgive her mother that day in Ha Tay. Maybe she never will completely. But she took the first step. She faced the woman who abandoned her. She listened to the truth. And sometimes, that's all you can do. The rest takes time. James is waiting at the bus station when Tu Diep gets back. She sees him before he sees her. He's standing by his motorbike, checking his phone, looking worried. When he spots her, relief floods his face. "You're back," he says, pulling her into a hug. Tu Diep lets herself lean into him. After the day she's had, she needs this. "How was it?" he asks. "Hard. Do you want to talk about it?" "Not yet. Can we just go home?" "Of course." They ride home in silence. Tu Diep holds on to James and watches the familiar streets pass by. When they get home, Nai runs to the door. "Mama, you're home!" Tu Diep scoops her daughter up, breathing in the smell of her hair. "I missed you. Baby, did you find what you were looking for?" Tu Diep looks at James over Nai's head. "I did." That night, after Nai is asleep, Tu Diep tells James everything. About the yellow house, about her mother's tears, about the 20 years of shame and fear that kept her away. "Well, what are you going to do?" James asks. "I don't know." "Do you want her in your life?" Tu Diep thinks about this. Part of me does, part of me doesn't. Part of me is still just angry. That's okay. You're allowed to be angry. She seems so broken, so sorry. Shouldn't that be enough? Only you can decide what's enough. The next few weeks pass normally. Tu Diep goes to work, takes care of Nie, cooks dinner, does laundry, but her mother's face keeps appearing in her mind. At night, she dreams about the yellow house. One afternoon, Tu Diep's phone rings. Unknown number. She almost doesn't answer, then something makes her pick up. "Hello? Tu Diep? It's Mrs. Lan from Ha Tay." "Oh, hello. Home. I'm calling because your mother asked me to. She didn't want to bother you directly. She wanted to know if she could send you something. For Nai, a small gift." Tu Diep closes her eyes. Okay. She can send something, but nothing expensive. "I'll tell her. Thank you." 2 weeks later, a package arrives. Inside is a small stuffed rabbit, hand-sewn, with mismatched button eyes and uneven ears. There's a note. "I made this for you when you were Nie's age. I kept it all these years. I hope Nai likes it. Mama." Tu Diep stares at the rabbit for a long time. She remembers this rabbit, or thinks she does, a fragment of memory from before everything fell apart. "What's that?" Nai asks, climbing onto the couch beside her. "It's a rabbit. From your grandmother. It's kind of ugly." Tu Diep laughs despite herself. "It is, isn't it? But in a good way. Like it was made with love. Out of the mouths of children." "Do you want it?" Tu Diep asks. Nai picks up the rabbit carefully. "Will it make you sad if I keep it?" "No, baby, it won't make me sad." "Then yes, I'll name him Button." That night, Tu Diep calls Mrs. Lan. "Can you give my mother my number?" she asks. "Tell her she can call me. If she wants, she'll be very happy. I'm not promising anything. I'm just willing to try. That's all anyone can ask for." The next evening, Tu Diep's phone rings again. This time, she recognizes the number. She stares at it for 3 rings before answering. "Hello? Tu Diep. It's me." Her mother's voice sounds small and uncertain. "Hi, Mama. Mrs. Lan said I could call. Is now okay?" "Yes, now is okay. I wanted to say thank you for letting me send the gift. Didn't I like it?" She named it Button. She sleeps with it every night. Tu Diep hears her mother's breath catch. "Really? Really?" They talk for 15 minutes. Awkward at first, then easier. Her mother asks about Nai's favorite foods, her favorite games, what she's learning in school. Tu Diep finds herself answering, sharing stories, almost forgetting to be angry. The phone calls become regular, once a week, then twice. Her mother never asks to visit, never pushes for more than Tu Diep is willing to give. 3 months after Tu Diep's trip to Ha Tay, Ni asks a question. "Mama, can I meet my grandmother?" Tu Diep looks at James. He gives a small nod. "Your decision. Do you want to?" Tu Diep asks. "I think so. She sounds nice on the phone." "When did you talk to her on the phone?" "Last week. You were in the shower. She called and I answered. We talked about Button." Hey, Tu Diep doesn't know whether to be upset or amused. "What did you talk about?" "She told me she made Button for you when you were little, and that you were her favorite thing in the whole world." Tu Diep feels tears prick her eyes. "She said that?" "Yes. Is it okay that I talk to her?" "It's okay, baby." "So, can she visit?" Tu Diep thinks about the yellow house, about 20 years of absence, about shame and fear and all the moments her mother wasn't there for. She thinks about her mother's shaking hands as she made tea, about the tears, about "I'm sorry" said over and over. She thinks about Nai sleeping with Button every night, about second chances, about what she wants to teach her daughter about forgiveness. "Let me talk to your father," she says, "and then we'll see." That night, she calls her mother. "Would you like to come visit?" Tu Diep asks. "Just for a day, to meet Nai." Her mother is quiet for so long, Tu Diep thinks the line has dropped. Then, "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm willing to try. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll take it slow, one step at a time." They set a date for 2 weeks from now. A Sunday afternoon. Low pressure, easy to cut short if needed. After Tu Diep hangs up, James wraps his arms around her from behind. "I'm proud of you," he says. "I'm terrified. That's okay too." Here's what I learned in those months after Ha Tay. Forgiveness isn't a single decision. It's 100 small choices made over and over again. It's answering the phone when you'd rather not. It's letting your daughter keep an ugly stuffed rabbit. It's inviting someone who hurt you back into your life, even when you're not sure it's the right choice. It's scary and uncomfortable and uncertain, but sometimes the bravest thing you can do is try. Tu Diep didn't forgive her mother all at once. She's still not sure she has completely, but she's trying. She's taking those small steps. She's building something new from the broken pieces of what was, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all any of us can do.